there's a big opportunity, not only for people who are looking to get on podcasts, but podcasters themselves. And so that's what we want to build. We want to build the number one place for people to get booked on shows and for podcasters to figure out how to grow and monetize and get to the next level with their shows.
Hello there and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske here again. I tell you what, today I have somebody very special lined up here because on today's show I have the pleasure of welcoming serial entrepreneur, top 10 podcaster, award-winning sales specialist, and podcast monetization expert, Jamie Atkinson. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I appreciate you. I feel like you kind of rolled the red carpet out for us.
Absolutely, and well-deserved.
Made me feel very special, so thank you.
Well-deserved, as I was going to say. Now, you and I are going to be talking about all things podcasting, including what you need to do to skyrocket your results using the Media Firestorm sales and marketing system. So you and I have been speaking at length about all things podcasting, but it's customary for us before we jump into the core of that part of the call to learn a little bit about you. So are you ready?
Ooh, I think so. I think I'm ready for it.
So where are you calling in from today, Jamie?
So it's funny. I sound semi-Australian. I'm actually English originally. I just speak to Americans all the time. So my parents make fun of my accent constantly. But I actually live in Costa Rica. So I live in a little town called Playa Negra in Costa Rica. That's where I've lived for the last 3 years.
Very, very difficult to put up with. Now, what do you love about the place?
Honestly, I originally came here because it was sunny, and I was living in Thailand, but I hated the time difference because all my customers are in America. It was like you wake up at 9 a.m. and it's 9 p.m. in the US. It's terrible. But, the really nice thing about Costa Rica is just they're very chill, very relaxed. I even started surfing, although I haven't been in a while. So I don't know if I can still claim that I'm a surfer. But yeah, they call it pura vida. It's the simple life out here. It's beautiful.
Well, that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's about getting away from the business occasionally. So what other hobbies and sports do you enjoy apart from surfing? Is there anything else you like doing?
I'm actually a bit of a nerd, so I'm kind of a gamer. And not always conventional games. A lot of people play like Call of Duty and stuff like that. I like, Japanese RPG games. I like to kind of go down these like indie games sometimes. So I spend a lot of time doing that stuff.
If there's one thing I can say is if I only had shares in Steam, I would be a very wealthy man. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I used to be in the Steam camp where I'd buy 11 games on sale and never open them. Right, that was my hobby on Steam. It's like collecting domain names. You ever do that? It seems the same in Steam. Collecting games you never play.
Oh, it's funny because there was a stage there, Jamie, that I would use Kinguin.net and they would enable you to buy all these games cheaper. Then I thought, no, I don't feel right about that. So back to the Steam zone we went. But tell me, in Costa Rica, what's your favorite food?
Honestly, here in Costa Rica, it's something they call gallo pinto, which it's kind of like rice and beans, which doesn't sound that glamorous, but they cook it in a really particular way. We eat it most mornings. It's beautiful. That with some eggs on the side, very light, very nutritious. It's awesome. Love that.
Well, tell me a little bit about your day, in fact, because I love to talk about, business and those sorts of things, which we're going to do in the core of the call. But, at the end of the day, it's fundamentals of business don't generally change that much, but the people behind the businesses do. So tell us a little bit about your daily routine.
I love this question because this is one of the things that I talk to all the time with my clients. It's almost the first thing we do. We break up our time into two sections, both me and my business partner, Angel. We have what we call CEO time in the morning. And then we have, the rest of the day for meetings and our daily activities. So what we do is we basically block off the first 3 to 4 hours of our day. So basically until midday is completely blocked off for the entire week. And so that's where we focus on building the business. So when we're trying to grow, need a guest, and we're trying to get, more podcasters to find guests, we'll go in and we'll build email sequences, or we'll, build projects or hire team members and train them. And a lot of that stuff is what we classify as like working on the business rather than working in the business, where you're like doing the activities. So we block off that time and we call it CEO time. And then the rest of the day, come 12 o'clock, that's where all the meetings come in, whether we're doing podcast interviews or team meetings or trainings or coaching calls, all the activities that we do in the day kind of are in the second part of the day. And my business partner, she used to travel all over the place. Angel would be, going to this event and that event. And one of the first things we did when we started working together was just block off her calendar. We took a battle axe to her events, and she credits it to to today, to allowing us to get a lot more done. We divide and conquer as a team, and we
Yep.
spend a lot of time on the business. I
Yep.
feel like a lot of business, I don't know if you agree, Rick, like sometimes they're very reactive throughout their day. It's like, the day starts, they open up Slack or their email, and they're like, oh my God, what fires do I have to put out? So we very intentionally try and force ourselves to not do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about you personally? Like in the first thing in the morning, like the moment that you wake up, sometimes I don't get this often, but sometimes I want to pull the covers over the back over my head. Do you ever have those days, and how do you get over that?
All the time. One of the things that for me is that I'm not really one of those entrepreneurs that's gonna force myself to do something if I don't feel energetically good about it. I
Yep.
used to do that, and then I find that I just, you remember like in school where like a teacher was forcing you to do something and you'd be
Oh,
looking at the notebook
yep.
and you don't really do it, but you're there looking at the screen. Doesn't it feel like that in work sometimes, right? It's like
Absolutely.
you're
Yep.
at the screen. So, for me, like every morning is a little bit different. Sometimes I'll wake up and go straight to work. I walk the dog every morning, so that's a good way to kind of
Love
get
it.
me out of the house, get a
Yep.
bit of vitamin D in the body. But sometimes if we wake up early enough, me and Natty, my girlfriend, we'll go sit outside. She makes this amazing, drink with like cumin and all of that stuff that stains, the mugs
Yes,
really
of
bad, but
course.
it's really good for you. So she'll make a big mug of like health, and we have a mug of
Yeah,
health in the
here's your
morning.
health.
And yeah, we'll just sit. And when we were able to do that, it's a lot better. One thing I've actually been working on is going to bed earlier.
Oh,
When I go to bed at 9, I can wake up early. But sometimes when I go to bed at 10 or 11, that's when I'm waking up exhausted and tired. So
yes.
that's what I've been. My mom was right. I needed to set a bedtime. Who knew?
So tell me, do you have a busy mind and do you find it difficult to switch off?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is we kind of have gotten into a routine to help us with this. So, we'll try and take certain things to help us fall to sleep at night, different supplements and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also, we actually have rain noises that we play at night,
Yeah,
which helps
beautiful.
me a lot because
Yep.
otherwise my brain just goes on and runs away like a runaway train.
Now tell me about your pets. You've got a dog. What type of dog is it?
She's just a mutt.
I love
She was
it.
a street dog.
Yeah,
We
cool.
rescued her, and yeah, she had a really tough time. We've had her for about 2 years now, and it was really challenging when we first got her because she didn't like people, she didn't like other dogs. But with enough time, they come
They
around,
come
and
around.
yeah, she's wonderful now.
They're almost like a soft place to fall occasionally to have those conversations you don't feel comfortable having with anyone else, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to our dog more than we talk to people. So I don't know if you're in that camp, but
Oh,
I'm
yes.
definitely the. I'll be walking along in the street and I'll go and have a conversation with someone's dog before I say hi to them. You know what I mean?
I
That's
tell
that's
you,
kind of
I
how we
know
are.
all about it. We have three Rottweilers. We're Rottweiler lovers, and they're just a beautiful animal, and they're big rugs basically. So
Right,
now
right.
tell me,
Beautiful dogs.
when I was growing up, I always had pets, but I always thought about those times that I reflect on, and I think of fondly. Tell me, or share with us one fun memory you have as a child.
As a child, oh my
Yes,
gosh.
when you were growing
I
up.
I think when I was growing up, there's a lot of running around in the woods,
Yep.
right? So that's what I did a lot as a kid. So yeah, that's definitely one of the fonder memories, just running around, being free in the woods.
Did you ever have the rule that you could be home any time as long as it was before the lights came on?
I don't know. No,
No.
so we just it was all we lived in a pub with a lot of like
Oh,
land
yep,
around it.
yep.
So it was my parents could see me kind of wherever I was, so it wasn't really so much of a big issue. But yeah, I'm sure I had a time that I had to come in.
I always think about parents and other inspirational people, those who have helped me become the person that I am today. Did you have anybody like that in your life, and who would that be?
I think probably the most inspirational person that I can think of that really led the way was more when I was a young adult, working in a sales job,
Mm.
and at being a manager and progressing and all the corporate stuff. There was this great guy that was leading me, and what was great is that he didn't really stand for any bullshit.
Yep.
He would just lay it out, and he's like, you have to be above reproach in everything that you do. If you want your team members to respect you, you have to be respectable. And so he taught me a lot of the value of, doing things right and being above reproach,
Yep.
which I think when you're running a team is so important. You can't call out one of your team members for being late if you're constantly late. You can't call out a team member for being, neat and organized if you aren't. So, that was really powerful. And I learned that from him.
Now, your first entrepreneurial experience, tell us about it. Mine was washing cars. Do you recall yours?
Actually, I kind of was a late bloomer to entrepreneurship, which is kind of funny. I think everybody thinks that, entrepreneurs are born and not made. I always liked the idea of being in business, but I was kind of afraid to take a lot of the steps. My first kind of soiree into online business was actually being a blogger. Like I started to travel and I made, some money as an affiliate. And that was kind of how I kind of got started. So bit of a late bloomer, but yeah, that was my first type of entrepreneurial gig.
Thank you very much for the feedback. Now, I know that we touched on, getting out of bed in the morning, want to pull the covers over your head again, but this also makes me think about the importance of having an appropriate mindset for the day. Tell us about the importance of mindset for you.
Well, I think, mindset is different to everybody. And I'm not one of those people that will tell you, you should do certain things. I think everybody's different. But one of the things that's really interesting is that even though there's lots of different things you can do, our brains all kind of work the same way. Yeah. Not everybody, some people have like learning difficulties or ADHD or stuff and their brains work differently. But, for the majority of us, we work in the same way. So I think what's really important is understanding how your brain works and working to get you being more productive or, getting into the right zone is if you can understand why you do certain behaviors, it makes it really easy for you to change those behaviors. Yeah. For example, one of my friends was, really big into 75 hard. Not sure if you've heard of it. It's that, workout program, but it's really a mental toughness program because what it does is it gets you to make, 8 things that you're going to do every single day for 75 days in a row. And you tick it off every day and you get all the things done. And, going through that, like reprograms your mind, you get more stuff done and your subconscious mind is going to tell you, hey, you're a person that gets things done. If you make a to-do list of 50 things and you only do one of them, you're actually telling your subconscious mind, hey, I'm not going to do things that I write down, and it creates resistance. So for me, I'm not a big believer in, kind of crazy mindset stuff. I'm more into, practical things and understanding how you work inside of your brain and sort of using that to your advantage, being able to analyze like, why am I doing things? Why am I behaving in certain ways so that you can figure out how to get, more out of your output.
It's fascinating how our mindset impacts our discipline. So thank you very much for that feedback. Now, you've had obviously a great deal of experience in sales and marketing in a professional capacity. You're also a professional podcaster and you're doing lots in that space, which we're just about to talk about. But out of all those things, Jamie, what do you do the best, do you think?
I think honestly, one of the things that I do the best is, coaching. It's something that's kind of one of these like weird superpowers I didn't know I had until I started doing it. I had this sort of ability to pull really great ideas out of people. There was a lady that just started working with us and she just did as a testimony the other day. She's like, I've been trying to get clear on my niche for 14 years. And she's been pretty successful. She built a 6-figure business, but she's never really gotten it like where she felt amazing about it. Yep. And she, had a couple of sessions with us and she's like, wow, that's it. Right. And that's amazing. And now she's got this like really driven vision of where she's going because she knows what she's building. She'll absolutely be a 7-figure business owner within a couple of years without a doubt. But, that's, I think is one of those hidden talents. I'm also, I like copywriting. Like I love to write and that's something that's kind of a very natural kind of thing for me. And I love doing that with clients, but I think it's helping people find those things within themselves that they can't always see. One of my favorite expressions is the cobbler's kid has no shoes, right? Like if you're the guy making the shoes, you're not making them for your kid. And I think as business owners, we can be great at helping other people, but struggle to see it for ourselves. And so, that's really what I love to do as a superpower is help people see what they can't see for themselves.
That's it's very interesting you mentioned copywriting because at the moment I see this surge of AI technology coming to the fore and people, now becoming established authors over the course of 8 hours, and I wonder what your views of AI are.
Well, I mean, I actually don't really think about AI all that much because there's a lot of people out there who are way more into it than me that will be able to get way more revelations from me rather than me being in it. Yep. So, I would rather, wait and see what comes up and then act on it later on. And for me, I'm all about focus. AI is never going to be my superpower. It's just not the kind of person that I am. I'm a relationship builder. I'm good at copy. So, a lot of people are worried about it, maybe rightfully so, and a lot of people are trying to get on board with it. But for most people, 99% of probably the people listening, I think it's a distraction. It's like instead of focusing on your craft and making your product better or fixing the problems in your business, which most of the time are probably just getting more leads, right? We get distracted by these shiny objects. We got to be thinking about this stuff. So, not discounting the value of it, but honestly, I don't think about it at all, Rick, because I know. No, because I just focus on solving the problems in front of me. And when AI becomes, big enough that it can solve the problems, or it needs to be something my attention needs to go towards, we'll shift our focus then and there. But for now, I'm just, focusing on what we need to build and what we need to do.
Great feedback. Thank you very much, Jamie. Now, I know you've had multiple businesses, so tell us a little bit about, I guess, the precursors to Media Firestorm and how that all came about.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of us, we build a lot of businesses and then we slowly build less as we get better in business. I don't know if you've noticed this, right?
Oh, yes.
My first 6 businesses never crossed, $10,000 a month. My next business, we grew to, a 7-figure business. And that's the one I had before the one with Angel. And now me and Angel have needaguest.com, which we have together, which is where our Media Firestorm process comes in. But the businesses I ran before the most recent one, I actually helped podcasters to grow and make more money. We've been able to help generate nearly $8 million in trackable podcast sales. And our average person we were helping only had about 1,000 downloads on their show. So we're really proud of that. And that's what I was dedicated to for nearly 4 years in that business, helping podcasters grow and monetize. Before that, oh my gosh, Rick, like a whole host of things, from Facebook ad agencies to a Pinterest marketing agency to an Instagram, challenge, and all of these different things. Yeah, lots of things, just trying to get my feet wet. I think a lot of the time we try and get our business right the first time round. Try and make the perfect business. Sometimes you just got to do a few, to get your feet under you, to get the skills, and you'll eventually stumble across the right one later as you grow and you evolve. So, that's why I say to people, don't worry so much about getting it right. Worry about just getting into it, right? Get moving. Don't worry so much about picking the perfect thing.
Yeah, you don't have to be, perfect to start. You just have to start to become perfect over time, I guess. But what are the goals of your current business? What's your mission? What do you really want to achieve at the end of the day? When all the days are done, you want to look back. What do you hope to have achieved?
I think this is what's exciting about needaguest.com, because when me and Angel first came into this business, we recognized the value of podcast interviews. Going on a podcast is a giant source of traffic for most people. And these audiences, I mean, you told me, Rick, you've been podcasting for 11 years. There's going to be people that have been listening to your show diehard probably for years. And, those people love you. You've cultivated this amazing relationship. And so that isn't just, a lead or a number or a view. That's somebody that trusts you. And so people don't realize that these audiences that exist out there are not just, exposure, but these are almost like trusted references that exist. So when me and Angel first came in, we saw we had these 2 skill sets. She developed needaguest.com. It's a free Facebook group. And, at the time she had 10,000 people in it, and people were going in and using it to get booked on shows, to find guests for shows. Amazing resource. And I had come in and I had all of these skill sets around monetizing podcasts and making money from podcasts. And so what we did was we sort of merged our 2 skill sets together. And that's where we built this Media Firestorm process. And what we wanted to create, Rick, was really simple. We wanted to completely disrupt the podcast industry, because if you look at podcast booking services or podcast booking tools, they're all pretty much the same. You get a VA, you go do a bunch of outreach, you get these terrible pitches that come into your emails, which clearly they're copying and pasting from one to the other, and it just didn't feel very authentic. So what we want to do is in that time that we've been working together, nearly a year now, we've grown Need a Guest from 10,000 members to 31,000 members. We had a different group that we acquired that's got another 30,000 members. So, we've really 6x the size of that audience in less than a year. So we want to grow our collective podcast audience to over 1 million podcasters and podcast professionals. And we want to keep that free forever. So people can come in, they can use it, they can get booked. And, we think doing that is going to, just really bring super, super powerful, booking options to people who didn't know it was an option before. But beyond that, what we really want to do is empower that not even 1%, probably 0.1% of the people that are coming into our communities, showing them how to go one step further, not only get booked, but really figure out how do we turn this into a real business? How do we get on podcast interviews and actually turn it into customers, turn it into exposure? How do we grow our business in a meaningful way? but actually making sure that they're serving the shows that they're getting connected on as well, right? Because I mean, you probably know this, Rick. People who come on to these shows and they just want to pitch their stuff without understanding who's listening, without giving value, they don't get very far, right? That doesn't really work.
It's kind of
But if you're
disingenuous, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, it sucks, right? It's like you're not here to help. You're here just to pitch.
Yeah.
And so we're really here to serve first, and we recognize there's a big opportunity not only for people who are looking to get on podcasts, but podcasters themselves. Because a lot of podcasters, they want to grow, they want to get more exposure, and one of the best ways to do that is to go get booked on other shows, right? That's one of the fastest ways podcasters can grow. So it's really, multi opportunities here for different people coming in. And so that's what we want to build. We want to build the number one place for people to get booked on shows and for podcasters to figure out how to grow and, monetize and get to the next level with their shows.
Is Need a Guest also suitable for purely business owners who don't want to start their own podcast? Is that?
Yeah. So here's what's fascinating is of the 63,000 or so, members we've got in the two groups, about 10% are podcasters. The rest are business owners. And so the way that we look at this is you want to think of this a little bit, like a job board, right? You've got businesses coming in, posting jobs. They're probably the 10%. And you've got 90% is people applying to the jobs. Well, it's kind of the same in Need a Guest. We have a lot of podcasters coming in and saying, hey, we're looking for this kind of podcaster. We want to have this kind of show. And then once you come into the group, you comment on those posts and you really, look for the opportunities. Because we keep the group simple. It's just 2 posts. You come in and you either are posting because you need a guest or you're posting because you want to be a guest. And those are the only 2 types of posts that we allow. So it makes it very easy for you to literally come into the group, scroll through all the opportunities, see a great show you want to be a guest on, and you just comment down below and apply. And there's some advanced strategies that we teach, our clients, and we also help people who listen to us on these shows, figure out how to do it better, right? How to have more success. But it's really like, looking through a job board. It's like, oh, here are all these podcasts that I can potentially be on as a guest. Which one should I pitch to? Which one should I apply to? And that's kind of how the group works. And it's why it's had such viral growth, because people love it. It's such a big resource.
It seems to me that a lot of beginner guests have a little bit of maybe fear, for lack of better words, a little bit of anxiety. How do you help them move past that? What sort of resources do you provide?
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing is just making it simple. We spent 4 months putting together this amazing podcast database for our clients. It's got 50 plus data points. You can see how big a show is, what their business name is, what their goal is, how long they've been in, all of this data, huge resource, right? And we gave that to our clients. And then what we also decided to do was send 1 email every week. And this email has 10 podcasts in it with a link for you to go and apply. And 99% of our clients, guess what they use? They use the email because it's so simple. So one of the things that we've noticed is that the simpler we can make this for you, the easier it is for you to execute. So, it really is as simple, Rick, as going into the group, seeing somebody posting and commenting with what they're asking for. Most of the time they say, tell me what your topic is. What would you like to talk about? So you go into the group, you find the right post, you can search for certain keywords depending on, what certain, type of show you want to get on. If you want to be on a business show, you maybe type in business. If you want to be on a health show, you type health, and you just really follow the instructions. And it doesn't need to be a lot more complicated than that. We have put together, something we call a pop-up podcast. It's a 3-episode mini series, and it really walks people through how to get the best out of the group. Because this is something we found, Rick, is a lot of people say, well, it sounds easy, but how do I actually do it? And so we put together this 3-episode series to really walk people through and actually to get them booked on their first couple of shows. Every Friday inside of the group, we also host a co-working session where you can show up and you can just book, using the group alongside other members of the group. That's fantastically popular because it just shows people, it gives you an easy way to get into it. It's like, come in, see what other people are doing. Oh, okay, I understand how this works. I can do something like this too. And you can build some great, relationships as you do that, right? It's nice to do things with other people. In the world we live in today, it can feel a bit isolating as an entrepreneur, right? It's nice to do things with other people.
Great feedback. Thank you once again. Now, you've just outlined the system of which you follow at Need a Guest, but I'm wondering, in terms of a guest who is looking to become, a guest on somebody's podcast, they will have to have a knock-on system, a follow-on system, a lead capture into conversion process after, post the interview. Is that something
Right.
you teach? How does that all unfold for the guest who's looking to make more sales, I guess?
Yeah, this is a great question because even what you just said, Rick, right? when we look at this, you say lead capture, sales process. People hear that and they're paralyzed. They're like, "Oh my god, that sounds fantastically complicated.
Yep.
What do I do?" Right?
Yep.
So whenever people are getting booked on podcasts, we point out that there are really three things that you need to focus on to have success. One, you want to get consistent. We recommend 2 shows a week because you can do that forever with a couple of weeks off for Christmas and things like that.
Yep.
2 hours a week isn't going to break the bank. Very easy to maintain. But, that's the first thing we say, get booked consistently. The second thing that's actually really important is get booked on high quality shows, because we see a lot of people that sometimes come into our communities and they say to me, Jamie, Angel, I've been booked on 150 podcasts in the last 2 years and I haven't made a red cent. And they say, what's going on? And we usually do a bit of digging, and we use a website. You can write this down. It's called listennotes.com. And you can search for podcasts. And, if you want to go and be a guest on someone's show and you want to see how established is it, how high quality is it, you can go in and it will give you information. It will tell you, this is a top 10% show, a top 5% show, a top 2, a top 1%. And when you look at those percentages, it really helps you to gauge how high quality the show is. Now, here's what's crazy. The top 1% of podcasts actually contain 99% of all podcast downloads.
Yeah.
When I tell people that statistic, they're surprised because a top 10% show sounds great, but anything that's below the top 1%, you can be fighting over, the scraps. It's like, let's all fight over these, 1% that's left over. So one of the things that's really fascinating is we did some studies and we looked at this. And if you get booked on, say, 2 top 1% podcasts, they can be the equivalent of a whole year, 100 podcast episodes on more beginner shows. And so it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to work harder or do you want to work smarter? So those are the first 2 things that we talk about is 1, be consistent, but 2, make sure that you're getting booked on those higher quality shows. And this is one of the things we help people do both in the group and inside of our programs. But the third thing, and this is what your point was to, Rick, is, well, I'm going on these podcasts, I'm getting in front of a ton of people. How do I make sure that I'm actually going to get customers? Like, how do I turn them into sales?
Yep.
And so one of the things that we teach our clients to do, and actually you guys can actually get to experience this because we have one of these for ourselves, is that thing I was talking about earlier, a pop-up podcast. And so a pop-up podcast is really just 3 podcast episodes. 3 20-minute, very simple podcast episodes, which you put together to solve a problem. So you have your dream customer coming in, you're on this podcast, you're promoting yourself, you're talking about all of these things. And then at the end of it, you're going to say, hey, if you've been enjoying this podcast and you've been learning about this, and now you want to know, how can I do this thing that, Jamie or Rick has been talking about? You can go download this 3-episode podcast miniseries. And so what's really fascinating about this, and you'll love this, Rick, as a podcaster, is audio consumption rates are just through the roof compared to every other medium. So we had a lady in 2020 where she did a split test between a webinar, right? Those 60-minute, long live sessions that you do, and a pop-up podcast. And her webinar, she had 1,000 people signed up, 10% of people showed up. Her pop-up podcast, same thing, 1,000 people signed up, but 600 of them listened to all 3 episodes. So it was 60% listened to 3 episodes.
That's astounding, isn't it?
So exactly the same message across both the mediums, but there was just 6 times more people that heard the message. So you can imagine, just because we're consuming passively in audio, and these podcasts, they're just like regular podcasts. They go into your podcast player, you can play them, you can pick them up, you can put them down. But there's something about that passive medium where people see things through. Rather than a video, we get bored after 2 minutes and we click away, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how we do it. So one of the things that we really encourage all of our clients to do is instead of trying to build a fantastically confusing funnel and steps and lead processes and just getting overwhelmed, we teach them to do these 3-episode series. It's 3 simple episodes. And the way these podcasts work is that for people to download them, they have to give you their email address, right? Just like a regular opt-in form if you were downloading a guide. But rather than a PDF that everyone's just going to put in that folder on their desktop, never to be seen again, the guide graveyard, I call it, oh, mine.
We've all got
Instead, they're actually going to go through something that gets them to know you better, and it leads them into a sales conversation. So the reason we call them pop-up podcasts is kind of like a pop-up restaurant. It's only going to be live for 7 days and then it disappears. So it creates a lot of urgency. If you're listening to this mini series, every episode is, well, you've only got a week, you've only got 3 days, you've only got 5 days before it disappears. And so it creates this very natural urgency for people to go through the content. Right. Just very natural scarcity. And we tell people up front, hey, we do this because by putting a deadline on it, you're going to take it more seriously. You're going to actually go through it. So that's what we really encourage all of our clients to do is, one, go get booked on great shows. 2, make sure they're high quality, so you're getting in front of a lot of traffic. And then at the end, instead of saying, go to my social media or go to my website, where we all know people are just going to drop off and never, take any action, we send them through this mini series, which is designed to, get them to listen, crucially, but more importantly, at the end of that podcast series, we're going to make them a great offer to take the next step. Because this thing is expiring in 7 days, it gives us a very natural jumping off point to say, hey, if you want to take the next step before this pop-up podcast expires, we've got an amazing offer for you to do that. So it just allows us to create this really powerful marketing campaign inside of this valuable 3-episode mini series. And sometimes when I start to explain this to people, it gets a little confusing. I always say to people, the best way to understand how one of these things works is don't listen to what I say, watch what I do. And maybe at the end, if we get chance, we can kind of share my pop-up podcast, the example, because it's kind of double benefit. It's going to show you how to go use Need a Guest to get booked. But at the same time, you can sort of see a little bit of the magic of what we do in this. You can watch what I send in my emails. You can watch what I do at the end of episode 3 and really sort of see how this works for yourself. And I think that's a great way to experience it and figure out, is this the right sort of thing for me to do inside of my business? I don't know if that helps, Rick, but those are the 3 things we do.
That is amazing. That is pretty much well defined, the outline of Media Firestorm as a program. I'm sure there's a lot more that goes into it, but I always think about the how blessed I am to live in the 21st century and have this amazing technology to communicate with people all around the world, with different business owners of different sizes in different niches, doing different things, amazing things. Tell us about the types of people that would benefit from this, types of business owners.
Honestly, the thing that we see all the time is this, what we primarily are doing with this free group and this service that we offer is we're helping people fix lead generation. Because, I love working with more startup businesses. We have some clients who make a lot of money. There's a client we work with who does, 9 million a year, and they're great. And it's fun to work with them because they're doing such great stuff. But it doesn't fill me up as much as working with someone who, gets to $100,000 for the first time. That to me is just way more exciting because that's going to change their life. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, wow, they finally made it. And so, when you're looking at what the biggest value is for getting on interviews and using a system like this, it really solves the problem of having conversations with your dream customers. Most businesses that are stuck below 6 figures and trying to get to a 7-figure business, there's only one thing they really need more of, and it's sales conversations. If you focus on one metric in your business and you say, how do I just get more conversations? I promise you, your business will grow if you increase that number. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They have great products, they have great processes, but they have a hard time getting more leads and having more sales conversations. So for business owners that are listening to this, and maybe you've tried Facebook organic, maybe you've tried doing posts and going into groups, maybe you've tried running Facebook ads, maybe you've done Instagram shout outs, maybe you do cold outreach on LinkedIn. All of these different methods can work, but they can be challenging, right? How do I get in front of enough people if I'm just doing it organically? How do I scale without putting all of this capital up front if I'm running ads? So the nice thing about podcasts is that it's this sweet spot of you can actually get really big audience exposure for not a lot of money, if any money, right? Even some great big shows that you can get a lot of exposure on might only charge you $100 or $200 to get on those shows. And it's a fantastic investment because you're getting in front of a really well-established audience that's been there for a really long time. Shout out to Rick, by the way, if anybody wants to come on this show. This is a great example of a podcast with an amazing audience that would benefit your business to come on a show like this. I would happily pay $1,000 to come on a show like this, right? Because I know we're going to get exposure and we're going to get, if we get one client from coming on a show like this, it would be worth it to spend that money. So, for anybody that's trying to get more leads, they're trying to get more customers. I mean, I'd encourage you to try podcasting, because if you can do it consistently, just 2 episodes a week, it's only 2 hours. I mean, Rick, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I've tried so many lead gen methods, and I'd be spending 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 hours a week writing posts and doing things and doing that. It's a big investment in time, and sometimes it's a big investment in money. I love podcasts because you can just do 2 a week. And the nice thing about Need a Guest is we make it really easy. We've already got these podcasts that have these great audiences in the group posting every week. You can really just go and reach out and get onto those existing traffic shows. And then, on the back end, as long as you can really figure out how to do this efficiently, even if you don't use a pop-up podcast, even if you just promote something that you've already got built in your business, it's a really easy way to get in front of new audiences. So those are the types of businesses I would really encourage to look into this and go use the group. It's free. You can download this pop-up podcast. It will walk you through how to do it, and you'll get to see behind the scenes of what we do to fuel and grow our business. But it doesn't have to be a lot more complicated than that. You can do a couple of interviews a week. Make sure you're getting on high quality shows by using the group as a resource. And then beyond that, we want to just be making sure we've got a very simple system to get people on the phone, to connect with you, to talk about what you do and how you can serve them. Does that make sense, Rick?
Absolutely. And once you gain that momentum, you're on your way. Now, I've had a look behind the curtain for anybody who's on the show today. We're just about to share how you can make contact and get involved with everything that Jamie and his wonderful team are doing. But tell me, Jamie, as we get to the pointy end of the call, how does it make you feel when you see people, clients, guests, relationships that you now have because of the work you're doing? How does it make you feel when they get results?
Honestly, it can be overwhelming at times in terms of just, the sheer impact, because you just don't realize that there's a lady that I worked with nearly 3 years ago now. And, we helped her get started in business, figure out her first ever business, leave her job. Today, she works with, 1,000 clients every month, helping them to do the same thing. And so the reach that you can have when you start to help entrepreneurs, it just compounds, because, helping one person, they can go help another 100, 200,000, 10,000 people. And that's really incredible. But I think what me and Angel get the most out of this is when we meet our clients in person. We do retreats each year. We do a lot of events in person, and just recently we were at an event called Podfest in Orlando, in Florida, where Angel lives actually. And we were at this event, and we had about 10 of our clients, that came with us, and to get to meet them in person, to put on some special training for them, but also just to hear about the impact, that how their lives have changed, how ideas have formed. We have this amazing lady called Kathy, and Kathy, she helps kids who are on the spectrum, that are neurodivergent children, who sometimes with autism, who are just 2 or 3 years old. And she helps parents really figure out how to reduce the noise and help them. Not like a world changing, 7 or 8 figure business, just an amazing lady helping parents who are really struggling. And she just had a book before she started working with us. And she said to me, Jamie, when I came into this, I just thought I was writing a book, and now I've got all of these plans. It's evolving. I'm helping these parents. I just never knew this was possible. And for me, that impact just feels way more significant sometimes than just making a lot more money.
Oh yeah.
And you just don't know what's going to happen. And so if you have clients and you haven't met them in person, I would recommend it. You'd be amazed at what you start to discover when you meet people in person and have these conversations.
You know what? This brings out the essence of the My Future Business Show. It's helpful people, helping people. And it's a real credit to you, Jamie, what you've done, what you're going to do. Again, I've seen behind the curtain, you've done some amazing things. But now that we are nearing the end of the call, I'm wondering if anybody wants to learn more about Need a Guest or join the group, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing you guys can do is go and experience it for yourself, because it's all free. So all you need to do is go to needaguest.com, NEEDA guest.com. Should be easy to spell that right, Rick. Sometimes I would misspell it. But if you go to the website there, one, you can actually go and join the group, and you can get inside of there and you can use it. And also on needaguest.com, you'll get access to our private pop-up podcast, the 3-episode mini-series I was telling you about. So, both of those are completely free. At the end of this pop-up Skyrocket podcast, we make you an offer. We say, hey, we would love to work with you if you're the right fit. And not everybody that comes into our world, in fact, only 0.1%, I think we learned when we looked at the numbers, 0.1% of all the people that come into our world actually end up becoming clients. So, don't feel, under pressure as you come through this. If you're the right person, you'll probably be the right fit. And if you're not, that's totally fine. But I would really encourage you to go through that process and not just listen to what we say, teaching you how to go get booked on shows, but watch what we do. Because that little 3-episode micro series, you will be shocked at how powerful something like that can be inside of the business, especially when paired with these podcast interviews. So go to needaguest.com. You can go join the groups. You can go download this free podcast series that's going to show you how to go get booked on podcasts. We'll solve that problem for you in less than a week. And on top of that, see what you think about that methodology, because everybody we show this to, Rick, and we show them the numbers and we show them about using audio instead of video to really warm people up as customers. They're fascinated by it. It's really, really interesting. So that's where I'd recommend you guys go, needaguest.com, and we'd love to help you out.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Jamie, for the feedback. Again, if you're on this call and you want to start your journey in the podcasting world, it's very exciting. And importantly, it's very effective way to get in front of your best audience and stay there. Like I always say, podcasting is just the way to go. So again, I'll be making sure that the links back to Need a Guest are below this call, no matter where you see it, in whatever format, video, audio, both, whatever. You're going to find needaguest.com link below this call. But with all that being said, Jamie, great call. Thank you very much for joining me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate your time.